What's up, Kalask?
Greetings, Sean, yes?
Yes, that's right.
When your ass goes up, quite literally, we're in space currently on a ship, so there's no up and down at all. Or rather, we are up, if you're asking from your own vantage point, right?
Yes. Okay, well,
Well,
how'd you like this better? This is your greeting, Kalask Alasandaka?
that's the sign of honoration, so yes, that's very appropriate. Kaskal Sandaka, right? Or just our name, wherever you're aware. We're not using names in terms of your Sean or the vessel or the idea of the David person, right? We're not naming individuals in such a manner. We're not using words in terms of communicating a certain sound frequency. So when we're speaking our language, which we're no longer doing among ourselves now, right? It's only to show a certain traditional word, code of honor. We're looking for something in your culture or your various arenas on your work where you perhaps have something like an oath, etc., right? That's a sign of respect to the person. That's not literally communicate information, but just an idea of a remembrance of something, as we're no longer using our words for a communication in day-to-day basis. So that's what it is now. That's what it has become. But cast just fine.
I see, okay. Uh, if you don't mind, because I'm working on balancing my chakras, could you read my energy and tell me what issues or what stage of development my chakras are in right now?
Well, first and foremost, as soon as you define something as an issue, you're making more out of it than it is. All of your entire species having an issue due to your own genetic programming, right? Due to your own coming to be on the planet. You are more or less messed up, so to speak, compared to what would be pristine, natural, inclined, etc. Or obviously, there's always something to work on, but it's a better way to put it, right? First and foremost, grounding could be very helpful, right?
Correct?
So if you're aware to ground, placing your feet on the floor, right?
Yes.
And of course, then there's this whole idea of having something like a visualization, the method change around where something like an idea of meditation that we put forward through Vassal, your pubs aware of such. Of course, our own symbol has great news grounding if you're drawing this somewhere where a vessel also printed it, or often to print on various clothing items, etc. That's very helpful, but you can technically just draw with your own finger somewhere, or wherever, depends where you are, what circumstances. And always remember, before you work with any energy outside of there, always make sure you're grounded first, right? Now, secondly, your Sandai could need some assistance, right?
Yes, well, I actually have been using the grounding method, using the chains going into the earth. I've been doing that for a few weeks now. So
Yes.
I was wondering if you could tell me if you can see a difference and how much of an effect this had on my root chakra.
Well, you are in an illusion of time. So what you consider a few weeks for us is just not a frequency. So whatever is different from you back then is literally what makes it a few weeks, right?
Uh,
Now, not to get too complicated here, but the idea is we obviously see your energy being different. Otherwise, we would not perceive it at all. And you would not perceive it as few weeks either if you had not any difference. If you had no difference whatsoever, you would still imagine or experience the same moment right now. The only reason you are referring to it and you have been doing something is because you yourself are aware of a shift in frequency, even if just subconsciously. Obviously, you're improving, correct. But we're mentioning it as you're still not where we would consider it to be pristine. Especially if you want to work with anything else outside your own consciousness, make sure you're grounded first, right?
right, right. Okay.
Then again, the second would be the third die that would come up. But again, make sure you're grounded first sufficiently before you focus on anything else.
That was going to be my next question. Once I am sufficiently grounded and I move on to the other chakras, what method could I use to work on the third eye chakra?
Well, we're aware the West also put out the idea of a certain meditation or concentration of a certain head movement, etc. concentrating on the area there. But the most important thing is that you're just aware of where it is. Yes, your so-called pineal clan, where there is some friction among your species about what clan exactly is referring to what chakra and whatever. What we are referring to, or we are using the idea of chakras, we are just using them when you're speaking to your species, since in your own Hinduist version of interpretation of energy, it's the most common currently on your planet, and you're calling it chakra system. There are numerous other versions to interpret energy, but just coming from the vantage point, if you will work on this particular frequency field, concentrate upon the gland, and be open. You can't really force somebody. You're trying to force them with that they are thinking of something or just concentrating there. You're closing it down further. Your intellectual mind will likely close it down, right? So, for example, you have something like an intuition or instinct, right?
Right.
So, when you're following your intuition, if that's you're walking down a pathway or a hallway in your hotel, right? And you've an inclination to take perhaps a different than you were originally intending. So you're taking left instead of taking right, for example, right?
Right.
You don't know why, and there's zero intellectual reason to do so, but you're doing it anyway. You're following your intuition, especially when it does not coincide with what your logical mind thinks is correct, right? First you meet somebody important when you go over there, or perhaps in the other direction there would have been a problem if you have went there, etc. Perhaps you will never know. But the more often you follow your intuition in those instances, the clearer your feedback system gets, and then you will get to get presentations from life, God, universe, whatever the fuck, depends what you believe in, of something bigger. For example, you'll get into a car instead of another one when you're ordering a taxi and it doesn't crash like the other one you originally want to get into, or perhaps you stop at a moment where you would normally not stop and you turn around, suddenly you see a $10 bill, etc. Next time it might be a $100 bill, etc. You get the idea. It gets bigger and bigger the more you're following it, right? That's
Yes.
also you manifest your life. You can't just sit there in the morning and say, today I'm going to experience this or that. I'm gonna meet the perfect moment and get rich, right? Those ideas where in your work you're really obsessed with the idea of sexuality and financial abundance, nothing wrong with such, so we are just using them as an example very often when you're interacting with your species. That could really be anything. Or today I will travel astral travel to another solar system and visit any civilization there, etc. Doesn't really matter. If you're just intellectually stating, I will make this experience in very little of the energy you're putting in there. Only when you start following intuition, you're amassing energy. So very often when you're saying or you're writing down, you're creating vision board, sometimes for a year, you're wondering why doesn't it happen. It's because you're only putting your intellectual energy in there. So once you start your following intuition, you get clearer inside your third eye, and then suddenly things you were pulsing out for a long time suddenly come to pass, right?
Yes.
So the key really first and foremost to be grounded, not get ahead of yourself, right? But once you're there, yes, the next step you can is work on your design. The very fact that we're addressing a question before you're asking it also shows that you're in a good interaction with us right now, or you're also using the vessel as excuse right now, since you're not capable of communicating with us directly in the same manner yet, or personal entity, or something else, or your own personal guardian, or whatever the fuck you call it, doesn't matter. Your own higher self most likely is usually what you're connected to anyway, the first time you reach out of your own ego consciousness. So you're having some connection there. However, the problem is that it's more needed to interpret the energy. So no matter what someone sends to you, if you don't have an open sarai, you can't interpret what is being sent. It's like somebody mailing you a letter in Chinese and you don't understand a word of it. And even you're getting all the letters, you can use them. So therefore your sarai is not so much for receiving or sending, but for interpreting the information that you're getting. It's the encryption service, right?
Yes.
So the more you're using it, the more stronger it gets. Same as your physical muscles, right? If you're not working out a certain muscle, it simply doesn't work as properly. But if you're working out every day, and then you're using it in your day-to-day life, it will be automatic without any effort, right? Because you're trained it. Same as your chakra system, same as your sarai.
I see. I understand what you're saying.
Literally, you see, you will, once you're opening up. Also another good example, if you're constantly blindfolded, and you suddenly see light after years of being blindfolded or being perhaps in solitary confinement in some prison system, you will likely be blinded by the normal sunlight, right?
Yes.
A similar effect you can get when you first time you're opening your third eye further, then it's just a matter of getting used to it, just adjusting to the frequency shift. But that should be no trainer, literally. It should be more the idea of being intuitive as well. It will adjust, just don't be afraid of it.
Okay. Understood.
Yes, same with sleep paralysis, or these other similar experiences, such, right? When you have these spiritual experiences, but you find them overwhelming. The key usually is just to wait through it, have no fear, or embrace the fear, rather. Yes, embrace the fear. Look right at it, enjoy it, and go with it. Even though when you're having a physical experience, you're in fear, enjoy the fear. That's how you always have the correct and best experience from your higher self's perspective. Don't run from danger. Don't run around like a headless chicken. No need to jump into it either. Just embrace the fear where you're encountering it, or when you get into a state of being blocked, right? It's usually also because you're coming from a place of non-acceptance of where you currently are, because you're running from your fear. Once you embrace the fear, whatever it is you're afraid of, you will also get out of the position of being stuck. No matter if it's spiritual or physical or mental, whatever.
Okay. Moving into fear can also give you strength, as in sort of like an adrenaline rush, like excitement that you can get from it when you move towards it.
Correct, that's the key. Once you get an adrenaline rush, for us that's likely a normal state of being from our own vantage point, right? Also very beneficial to connect to us when you're in such a state, right?
Yes. Which
For
brings me to,
example, when you're in some form of altercation, doesn't have to be physical, but anywhere where it can perhaps threaten your species, and when you're getting down afterwards, you likely feel endorphins that you see they're still reborn.
yes, yes. Which
But
brings me,
remember, always be grounded before you doing any of this. We have to stress this. Go ahead.
grounding is basically associated with clarity. The more grounded you are, the more clear you are.
The more grounded you are, simply, you will have an easier time interpreting or rather grounding energies, right? The point is you won't be wishy-washy all over the place. You will be more aware of where you are, who you are, what you stand for, what you represent in your current incarnation, your race, your gender, your location, the language you're speaking, like all of those things. If the job you're having, it doesn't really matter. All the things that makes you the ego personality that you decide to incarnate as, right?
Yes.
It makes you be more in the world, and you can only have an effect on the world and on your own reality around you if you are in it, right?
Yes.
So when you have your first more esoteric inclined personnel, right? Especially your rare fairy, whatever the fuck, tend to try to run from your physical identity and your incarnation on Earth by focusing on the spiritual. That's not only faulted because you're not getting clearer information if you're on ground, but you're also messing up your physical life in the process. It's not necessary. You can have great spiritual advancement, and that are affected even more so when you're grounded at the same time. That's the irony, right?
Well, that's why I'm engaging in developing more of, how can I say, spiritual energies in the first place, so I can use them to improve my life. Like, I actually enjoy life, so I feel like if I can explore other energies that I have not used before, I can live a more, how can I say, interesting sort of life.
Yes, certainly, but we can recommend or would rather say it's only feasible the other way around. First, focus on your own physical life, then you reach out into the cosmos, right?
Right?
Because you need to be grounded first to even be able to receive anything, or if you, for example, open your sunlight before you're sufficiently grounded, it could likely lead you astray because you're no longer integrating the frequency and you're stuck in the astral, you're aware of this from the vessel without grounding it on Earth, and then you will lose your sense of life or your idea of why you're even there, etc. Right?
I see.
You're out of touch of who you decided to be in this lifetime. that could be an issue. Not currently, but if you go on a pastime without grounding, it could happen.
I see. I see.
Yes.
Okay. If an individual wanted to explore psychic abilities using their energy to say move objects, or just do things that are out of the ordinary, what would you recommend?
Again, be grounded first if you want to have an effect on your physical world. Be grounded first, right? Then of course there's the near you need to be able to use your psychic powers and believe that they're possible. Or no, let's rephrase that. Be convinced that it's possible and you're able to do it. As long as you're just believing it's possible, it won't work.
Okay.
Just like when you're walking towards a door and you are convinced it's open, right? You can walk through it. Or if you have the doubt it might be closed, you might walk right into it and you're actually creating a reality where it's closed. Remember, everything around you is being moved by your psychic abilities anyway. You're just doing it subconsciously. Your entire world is just a reflection and you're creating in the mirror that makes sense to you, so you're not completely frying your brain by suddenly having experiences that are not indecratable.
So basically what you're saying is looking for certain methods, practicing is not really, it's kind of like defeating the purpose. It's like you're using more of your ego mind rather than just allowing it to happen. That's what you're saying?
Yes, in one way or the other. Not the best way to phrase it, perhaps. You are always creating your own reality anyway. So it's not like letting it happen, it will happen anyway.
Yes.
It's just being aware of it.
Yes.
And of course, you're asking yourself, well, I want to move this object there without touching it with my hand. Of course, you would have to ask yourself why, and are you convinced you can do it at all?
Yes, I see. I see. Speaking of creating your reality, as far as willpower is concerned, how much of the world does willpower actually affect? Say, for example, changing my immediate environment is one thing. But say if I wanted to make a change on the other side of the world, how far does willpower extend for myself to enact that type of change that big?
Well, you are currently having an effect. For example, you're communicating with us, right, through the vessel. So you're having an effect on the vessel in terms that you're communicating verbal communication through the vessel's ears, and you're having affected us by communicating with the vessel and we're reading the vessel. So you're definitely having a communicative effort right there, just like we're having an effect on you by sending energy through you directly and words through the vessel, right? So you see, there's always everything somewhat interacting, right? If there's currently something happening in Shanghai, on Venus, and on Orion, everything is currently happening there as far as you're aware of it or not, right? As far as you are able to perceive it, obviously you can perceive either of one of those three places, but if you could, all of those places you actually can perceive, right? You are having an effect on just by perceiving it. Nothing can exist in your reality without being affected by your consciousness. So it's 100%. You're constantly having an effect. And the question is, how consciously are you having an effect, and how much is your self having an effect, how much is your ego, etc. You get the idea.
Yes, yes. Okay.
But if you're trying to force it from your ego mind, it can sometimes be damaging, right? In terms of you're cutting yourself short because you're realizing it doesn't work from the ego, and then you shut yourself off because you consciously believe it doesn't work, right? Compared to when you're coming from your real self, right? That will always work instantly, right? Yes. The more you're following your pathway, the more things will fall in alignment to the degree you will have magical moments, right? Just the right person just crosses your path and gives you exactly the information you needed, like us, or an item, or whatever. Things just magically happen, but only if you're from your higher self, as long as you're trying to force it from the ego, it will likely not work. But when you're following your higher self, it will always work. The more it works, the more your ego will also fall in place because it realizes that it works.
All right. Speaking of the ego, isn't there a visualization or meditation you share with somebody on how to integrate the logical mind with the spiritual mind?
Yes.
Or left brain, right brain, you understand what I'm saying?
Well, we're just using those terms to refer to you those concepts. We wouldn't even differentiate between them at all. The ego is basically just the anchor, right? That's being thrown down from the ship. So you have a certain point on the ground where the energy can be grounded. Again, get back to the idea of grounding. You'll be grounded first in order to navigate your ego. Once you've done so, you can funnel information in there from your higher self.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're basically saying using a visualization to balance the two is not really necessary. It's better to just understand how the two function. And how
You don't
use
need
them.
to intellectually understand it, but if you have an idea of how they function, how they interrelate. Yes, if you want to use a meditation to achieve that, nothing wrong with that. Perfectly fine. It's just a tool that you can use. Sure.
Okay.
Again, if you're just following your intuition, your higher self will take over immediately. But again, you gotta be grounded first.
I understand.
You will perhaps say grounding takes care of the ego, right? And following intuition takes care of higher self-correction, third-eye, etc., right? We're just using those concepts from your own language, from your own culture, from your own world. We're not using any of those ideas, we're just using words that are somewhat familiar to you, that make somewhat sense. You're getting better grounded as we're speaking.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It's hard to tell whether I'm grounded or not. I practice grounding just about every day.
Yes, very well. You should feel on the soles of your feet, you might feel a sensation when you're grounding.
Okay.
One telltale sign.
All right.
Yes.
Do you recommend any using color as a tool to affect the chakras anyway? Like for example, red, the color red, focusing on the color red and using that to ground.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Great idea that color matching or color psychoculture certainly has an effect. Yes.
My understanding is color has vibrational qualities that are pretty much the same in all dimensions. Is this your experience in the dimension that you live in?
Well, if you're going higher dimensions, coloration gets more subtle or perhaps more differentiated as you're aware yourself, not just the red and the blue, you have the indigo idea, magenta, etc., right? Those in-between colors. The further you go with vibration or frequency or what I call such, the more subtle nuances you will be able to perceive.
Okay.
But yes, in your current idea, red is certainly helpful with crowding, especially, of course, our symbol on a black background, right?
Yes.
Or the artworks of us, etc. Reptilian energy in general is crowning. Of course, you can also interact with a physical reptile like a snake or whatever, but also be helpful. But yes, of course, coloration helps a great deal.
Okay. I wanted to. Oh, by the way, before we go on.
Yes.
Yeah, tell me if I have any incarnations at the moment in any reptilian groups.
Well, since you're asking, obviously, yes. There are incarnations of your overs, so that you could then perhaps consider a entire incarnation in species that you would consider reptilian, yes.
Which ones?
Well, Currently, there's a
What
direction,
type?
yes.
Kalask, which one?
Yes. There's a certain race we've not mentioned before that are near somewhat correct to one ritual you might be familiar with, where a director, a beach trunk, right? The ritual is somewhat of a similar species or similar vibration as the one you're referring to right now, right? The next version, there are certain interests from other species. There's focus on vessels towards other interactions. There's only the possibility. Remember, per incarnation, there are a possibility. The more you focus on them, the more they're linked to your current life, right? So there's this time that someone linked to Vortex, right?
To who?
To Vortex.
Vortex, okay.
Not directly them, but a related race. It's somewhat related to them, like an offshoot aura, right? So Ubers might benefit from directly with their frequency as well, but obviously our symbol is usually best for grounding, since that's what been practiced on your work to a certain degree and what creates a certain frequency, right?
Okay. I had learned about this technique or meditation called shapeshifting, which allows you to take on the qualities of the entity that you want to shapeshift to temporarily.
Well, this idea doesn't literally shapeshift you into an entity, right? But it helps you much better to integrate frequency. That's how we first toured the vessel to integrate our frequency, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to do. Whatever
Yes.
qualities I wanted to take on, I figured that this technique might be a good way to enact those.
Yes, you're just imagining you are a certain species or entity. It can be quite intellectual exercise. You're just pretending, but by pretending, by intellectually tricking your intellectual mind to thinking that you are that, or what would this person do? It right? Doesn't matter if it's the president of China, or if it's an astronaut on the moon, or it's an entire species in our universe, right?
Yeah, so let me
By
ask you.
doing so, you incorporate their frequency. That's how you can get into a state like the one the West is in right now. Correct.
So if I was to incorporate the frequency of Kalask, what type of changes could I expect over time?
Repeat.
If I was to incorporate the frequency of Kalask using a shape-shifting meditation on a day-by-day basis, what type of changes could I expect over time?
Well,
Whether mental or physiological, what type of changes could I expect to see?
the thing is not what you could expect to see, but what will happen. And what will happen will be what you expect. Your expectation is what creates it, right?
Right.
So the first thing literally comes to your mind is what you're already expecting, right?
Right.
See how you trick yourself there. Or obviously, whenever you're connecting with us, or frequency, imagination, what Kalask is capable of, right? You could literally name words now, but what's more powerful, what you already conjured up of what you are imagining and what you're picking up, remember, imagination is also creation. What you're picking up from our frequency is literally the easy set you will be able to incorporate.
Okay, so basically whatever I expect is what I'm going to get.
In all cases, not just in this case, yes, more power, certainly, more strength. First, you might feel a rush, more rushes, right? First, a little bit hyper, right? We're just judging you from the vessel's own state of being after those directions. And by the way, how are we doing on the timing? It seems that our current one is coming to a bitter end.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
It's been a very good chat. I definitely want to do this again sometime.
very well. Until our next direction, we wish much strength, honor, and of course, we're expecting a feedback from you in our next direction, how well you were able to integrate our frequency and what you did with it.
Oh, well, no doubt. I will do that.
There we go.
Straight and honor to you.